Alright guys, such coming again today. Hope you're doing good and enjoying your day so far. Big drama in the CDL last night. Scrappy not especially happy about being compared to the other ARs in the league. Scrap says he's different gravy to all of them, especially not least Cellium, who did have a very good series last night, among some other controversy yesterday, including FormaL talking in more detail about the whole Scump watch party drama and what's going on with his perspective on that. Very much interested to your thoughts in the comments. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always, I greatly appreciate it. We've got lots to get into today. Wanted to start here, thought it was pretty funny getting the Barstool guys on the Scump watch party for a brief moment last night, but let's talk about some of these CDL games because there were plenty of talking points here in addition to what Scrap had to say afterwards and what's coming up tonight as well. So the league put together, or the desk put together, their tier list right now going into the second week. I think it's reasonably fair. OpTic clear of the rest. Thieves, Gentlemates, FaZe, it's kind of difficult to say. Feels like those teams could probably beat one another on a given day. Of course, FaZe did get smoked by Gentlemates in the hard points, but in the other game modes, it was not, especially Game 5, that series last weekend was not especially close. Can Toronto be considered in that tier? I think we will find out shortly whether they can compete with the teams above them. Rocker, G2, okay, no longer Rocker, G2, same thing, Heretics, Boston, Surge down in the D tier, no one's in the F tier, which I think is somewhat generous, possibly. Falcons, Cloud9, Ravens, etc, etc. But yesterday, we got to see Falcons play against the Ravens, and I thought, you know what, I'm not a big fan of this Falcons team, but they were the favourites for this one. But I could see a world where, okay, maybe Ravens sneak it out in 5, but that was not the case by any means. The Falcons, they might be better than they appeared. I don't know, it's kind of difficult to say. Last weekend, they lost to OpTic, they lost to Thieves, so they might be pretty damn good. It doesn't feel that way, and the discussion from the scrims has been that they're not really anything special. Maybe they can improve over time. Scrap certainly has some thoughts on Cellium, though, we'll get into, and Cellium played with some serious pace this series, and that was certainly required. I think that was one of the primary concerns with the Falcons is the lack of pace, really. Not like XNID is slow, but Pred is not a fast sub. Cellium is not a fast AR, certainly not the way that he's played over the last few years. Rewind to something like MW19, Cellium was almost more of a flex on that game, then yeah, you'll find Cell playing with some pace. The World Cup last year where they won, Cellium was moving on the map. Not always the case, however, but look, Falcons might not be great, but Ravens shows that there are levels to being terrible at this game, and they certainly are pretty much bottom of the barrel, I would say, right now. So Cellium walks away, and then probably not even the worst team in the game, certainly not even the worst team to play on the day. We'll get to that in the coming minute, possibly anyway. Cellium with a 1.5, the entire rest of the team in the 1.1s. Impressive stuff from the Falcons. Cell was 33 and 19 game 1 with 2 minutes in the hill. He was absolutely farming. The game 2, though, like, this is where Ravens, it needs to be their bread and butter, right? Like, if they're going to win anything at all, they're probably going to end up doing it in 5. They get 6-2'd on the Scar. They're not a good overload team. They got slammed there as well. And it was a hot 3-0 for the Falcons. And it's not a good sign for Ravens, this, at all. I mean, look, that team is just so strange that I could never really see it being any good. I think Slasher gets discredited a little too much by the community, right? Like, I've been on this wave now for a few years when I think Slasher has been, even in terms of his achievements, like how good he used to be when he was in his prime, I think that gets a little bit overlooked. And I think over the last few years, he's been solid enough, right? Like, I think he's been slightly better than the Slasher slow criticism he gets. But even for me, going into this season with this team, I just couldn't see it, right? Like, you've got Slasher on a game like Black Ops 7. He's pretty much the last of the old guard ARs. It's going to be a hard time, surely, on a game like this, full stop. In addition to him playing with a bunch of rookies that he's never enjoyed doing, ever. And he's been vocal about this, that he's not really a big... He wants to play with players that he recognises and has played with in the past. You know, he would like to play with a TJ Alley, or for example, right? Maybe not anymore, but that's the kind of general picture. Putting it with Nero, Lurks and Craze, where Slasher's got to do a lot of the work in terms of the leadership and all of that, I could just never see it working, especially because they're playing remote. They're not even in the same building or the same facility. It's just a recipe for disaster top to bottom. No massive surprises. They're getting slammed, in my opinion. The next series, Boston played G2. Thought this probably had the potential to go all the way. Boston, their early scrims weren't that impressive, or their early results. So I was kind of wondering where they would be. But Boston have been pretty impressive, right? Like, there was an absolute bang-out game 1 here on the crimp losses. They do get the dub there, G2, and then they move up 2-0 in the series as well. But then it starts to go downhill because Mamba started off the second map, 0-11, or the third map, sorry, on the overload. Boston were already up 2-0 at this point. They close out the game 3. There were some very entertaining highlights in this series, I think, especially Snoopy. Watching Snoopy when he's on point, especially on a game like this, so much fun to watch. And then, of course, if you let Boston go to game 4, Nastie will pop takeover. I don't understand what it is. Like, why can't Nastie drop 1.5's game 1? But once he's warmed up, he almost always drops 1.5's in game 4. So this is the first reverse sweep of the season. G2, they looked pretty good at that opening 75k CDL tournament that was run a little while ago. Boston, however, they bring it all the way back and they win it in 5 maps. The first map, as I say, was that absolute bang out. The second map, it was a dominant 6-1 red. It looks like, okay, fair play, G2, they're going to close this one out. But after the Mamba disaster class on the Scar, it then happened again on the game 4. This was the Nastie 1.5. I mean, it's just a tradition at this point. And then they go map 5. And again, a really rough one for Mamba. I think we've been pretty impressed by him so far. That this was a real bad series, right? Like, some of the plays he was making, he was probably in his head a little bit as the series was starting to fall away, and the final map was a bit of a disaster as well. Nastie and Snoopy absolutely take over. So big result for Boston, getting on the board early doors. They've started pretty well, it seems, and I think they will get more results like this against better teams. I think G2 are solid enough, but Boston will get upsets like this against some of the real top dogs at some point as the season goes on. You know, they still may not be enough, but I do think that Nastie over Awakening has proved to be a pretty solid upgrade so far. The final series, to the displeasure of FormaL watching this, was watching them play the Surge, because Toronto, it's tough to judge Toronto based on this series, because we know how lost Surge are, unfortunately, as it stands. It kind of felt like over the last couple of weeks they'd managed to get a little bit better, maybe, but on the evidence of last night, not necessarily. You know, this is another clip here. Lqgend's in a gunfight. He just misses a couple of shots, gets slammed. ReeaL shoots his body, I think, a little bit as well. And I think after last year, there were some questions about Lunarz. Was Lunarz actually good? Was he just in a terrible system on the Gentlemates? The answer still might be possibly, but early doors in Black Ops 7, it ain't looking pretty for any of these guys, and Toronto 3-0 them. The din, to be fair, was a round 5, round 11, it was a 6-5. The Colossus game 1 was not close. Lunarz with a 0.6, Lqgend with a 0.7. I mean, all of these guys are getting slammed. It just, again, it's one of these team compositions like the Ravens. You look at the team comps in the league. Miami obviously makes some sense after what we've seen last year. The Cloud9 team comp, I don't hate it, right? Like, I think of those kind of theoretical bottom teams, I don't mind what Cloud9 have gone for, really. Same with G2, same with Boston, for sure. But the two teams I think many of us looked at before the season began and said, I don't really know what you're doing there, was Ravens and Surge. And right now they look like the worst teams in the game. Surge, I think, even especially, at least, you know, you say what you want about Slasher, but at least they had, okay, veteran AR, younger guys. You know, there's some world in which that worked. I still, as like I say, in this particular instance, don't really see it. But for Surge, you're bringing in Legends who is clearly very talented, has done an awful lot of successful things in Halo, but does not, you know, he needs to transition and to learn the game very quickly. Shotzzy, it took him a good couple of months. And, I mean, he was playing Black Ops 4 even long before that. He was certainly switched to COD before Lqgend did, in terms of his time playing COD exclusively before he came into the CDL. Lqgend needs all the help he can get, and fast. And Shotzzy had Crim and Clayster. Lqgend has Abe, Gwinn and Lunarz, right? Like, it ain't the same. And I just think that's a big problem. So, yeah, Toronto showed them. It's just like, even if Surge can get better, will they be mentally chalked? Will they be compromised? Can they possibly do enough to make this happen? Because, well, if they can't, then they're going to be struggling for points for a long time, and their World Championship aspirations will be chalked in not the too distant future, I'd imagine. So, few clips I wanted to share as well. this was FormaL talking about the whole Scump watch party situation. We did discuss it yesterday. Scump came out on stream and effectively implied that FormaL didn't want to call out to the super chats. FormaL says, look, that's kind of a misinterpretation of what he was trying to say. So I don't think there's any, malice or any, bad blood here especially. FormaL just trying to say, look, this is how I saw it from my angle. This is why I'll still do the watch parties, but I also want to do his own thing as well, which I do also find highly entertaining. And the other clip is from Scrap here, not very happy about some of the assessments on his playstyle compared to some of the other ARs in the league.
Why didn't you want to be on the watch party with Scump? Oh yeah, we could talk about that a little bit before this starts. So when I texted Seth earlier this week, last week I was on for Saturday and Sunday, and it was really fun. But if you watched my Friday stream last week and then compared it to how I was acting like Saturday, Sunday, it was like, I mean, obviously I'm there kind of just like to elevate the entertainment of the watch party, but like it felt very disconnected from streamer to chat interaction, right? Like from my perspective, and I watched the clip that Seth posted, and I don't think he portrayed it the right way. Like it was like the way he said it sounded. The clip was bad. That's why I instantly responded. I would have actually turned my stream on and responded that way yesterday, but I was actually at Hitch's podcast filming that with him. But the clip, I don't think Seth meant to do it intentionally, but the way he said it sounded like I was just too lazy to go, and like that I was like sick of thanking subs and stuff, and it was kind of the opposite of that, right? Like I was getting subs on Seth's watch party, but it's hard to even like show appreciation to the support that you get on the watch party. Like at least, I mean, maybe it was just because it was my first time being on it, but it felt like, you can't really, like me personally as a streamer, I get value out of my stream from interacting with you guys and responding in real time. You can't really do that when you're sitting there with 3 other streamers that are all live at the same time. You can't mute out and respond to stuff, It's like you kind of have to talk over each other. So most of the time you're kind of generalizing a lot of stuff. You're thanking subs, but you're kind of squeezing it in the middle of stuff. And it's fine. It's just it just felt like there were sometimes, like the best way to put it is like there's too many cooks in the kitchen, right? And everyone's trying to grab the pan. I've been getting personal enjoyment from actually breaking down like real time in the game what's happening and stuff like that, which I can do on Seth's watch party, but then it'd get annoying,
Introduction of Blackheart.
Dashy fans were telling me that Cell is slower than Scrap. Bro.
Carolina.
Yeah,
bro. What do you think, Sam?
Cell is definitely slower than me. What the fuck am I reading? There's no way that there's actual fans that think that, right? There's just no fucking way. If you think that, you don't know ball. I respect you. You just don't know ball at all.
I think they're, it's the Ravens, so I'm not. They beat
I'm not reading, bro.
But I really want to see what they look like against the teams that we're going to be competing.
I was banging with a sub today. I don't give a fuck.
Until I see a matchup
if he's banging the next 3 weeks.
I'm going to reserve judgment, but I think on the side of Ravens,
no one plays like me, bro. Exactly, Samovan. Exactly, bro. No one plays like me. I don't play like anyone else.
A lot of negativity.
Don't compare me. Hold on, let me turn this shit back on. Don't compare these fucking people.
This was going to be like a.
You guys are peasants in my eyes. Peasants.
Like 250, 240 hard point. Like I really thought this was going to be.
Does Scrap have a fair point here comparing himself to the other ARs? I think this is kind of what FormaL's been talking about. Look, obviously Scrap's got an ego as a player. I think as you should as a top level player. Scrap believes he's the best AR in the league. Like he was the MVP of the season last year by all accounts. Didn't win champs, didn't win the World Cup, and that will be again the question. Scrap, phenomenal player. I think he does do it different to pretty much all the other ARs in the league. Probably one of the better comparisons nowadays would be Dashy. I mean, obviously it has been for some time, but again, their playstyles are slightly different. So I think Scrap, in the way that he plays the game, nobody else does it exactly how he does. But also people all say ring check. How many have you got? Cellium's got one. Dashy's now got a couple. So obviously there's always going to be a little bit of a talking point there. But let's talk about some of the matches that are coming up tonight, especially because we do have Blackheart back in the game. They removed it from the game because it was broken for some reason. They fixed it now and Blackheart is back. So they didn't replace it from the pool, they just removed it. It's mean we've not seen it at all. The pros do seem to quite like this map, so presumably if it's back in the game state, we could be getting it played today in the CDL for the upcoming games, and these is what they are. Because I'm on Polish time, this third game of the day is appearing as tomorrow's, but really that's just today. So, but anyway, the games tonight are actually kind of banging. The first one, Gentlemates versus Thieves. Great start to the night. I mean, that is the series of the night, I think, in many respects. Really excited to see how this one goes, because Gentlemates obviously lost to FaZe, so they'd like to have a nice little bounce back here, really. Thieves have started off the year 2-0, but Gentlemates, their Search and Destroy looked vulnerable the other day. that I think the hard points are going to be bang outs. I would expect Gentlemates to take certainly one, if not both of the hard points in this series. So it should be a great series, in addition, of course, to the whole Thieves rivalry with Ghosty and Envoy and all of that that's still going on. OpTic versus Heretics, historically a great series. Not sure how Heretics are looking in the early part of this game to pick them over OpTic today. So, you know, I don't see that being especially close, but who knows? OpTic and that franchise historically have gone back and forth. And then Surge Cloud9, right? I mean, as I say, I gassed up Cloud9's roster composition with respect to Surge. Not to say I think Cloud9 are sensational, but I think they should win that series. So very much intrigued to your thoughts, as always, in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new. Take care. And I'll see you next time.